It wasn't necessarily pretty, but hey, what has been for the Dolphins this season? A 23-15 victory on Monday Night Football snaps the Miami Dolphins' losing streak at 3 games, pushing their record on the season to 3-6.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome to a clubbed up episode of Locked On Dolphins here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked On Dolphins, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting, author of Touchdown Miami on Substack, and the NFL draft lead for the 33rd team. Special shout out to our everydayers, especially those of you who are tuning in on Monday night or Tuesday morning in the immediate aftermath of the Dolphins' 23-15 victory over the Rams to push their record to 3-6 on the season. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is brought to you by Ultimate GM. Use promo code Locked On NFL, all caps, inside the game store, and receive a free boost to your franchise. The Dolphins got a boost to their franchise on Monday Night Football, thanks in large part to a very strong defensive performance. We're going to get into some game balls here that I thought off the TV copy of the game. We're going to get into the Tua Tagovailoa performance, the good, the bad, the ugly of that. I think there was plenty of all three of those things in this game, but you have to start this conversation with the defense. The Rams go 0 for 3 in the red zone, on the heels of a game in which you gave up 30 points to Buffalo and you couldn't get a big stop when you needed it. And the week before against Arizona, you blew a double-digit lead that you had in the fourth quarter of that football game. And the offense had a safety that was involved in that process that was a part of that meltdown for you. But Matthew Stafford throws the ball 46 times. They have 257 net yards passing as a team. The Rams average under 4.8 yards per play. They go 3 of 12 on third down in this contest. The Rams as a team, they finished this game 18 attempts for 70 yards on the ground. It was under 4 yards per carry. Really impressive stuff from the Dolphins defense through and through. And you consider getting Zach Sieler back. Did you notice Zach Sieler out there? I certainly did. I think he made a number of splash plays. Getting Javon Holland back and what that did for some of the dynamic play in the secondary. The Dolphins had a couple of injury scares. They had Kendall Fuller went down and it was ruled out very quickly with a concussion and concussion protocol. Cam Smith comes in the game, gives up some receptions, including a spectacular catch along the sideline on a long down and distance situation with inside leverage against Cooper Kupp with a one-handed catch. There's not a lot you can do there. Then Cater Kohu goes down in his first game back after coming back from injury, and you're really sweating what the secondary looks like. Thankfully, he only banged knees with one of the Rams running backs and was back in the game to help the Dolphins defense stiffen once again in the red zone and ensure that they were not going to give up a touchdown as the Dolphins late in this game clung to a lead, and it kind of yo-yoed between 8 and 11 points on a number of drives. The Rams had 3 field goals in the fourth quarter. They kicked 5 field goals total in the game, and they forced the Rams to be methodical, and it's kind of what teams used to do to the Dolphins offense, that the Dolphins offense has been a little bit better about this year, at least with the starting quarterback in the lineup. And that's kind of methodically working your way down the field. The Dolphins forced the Rams to do that. And the Rams, you'd get on the plus side of the 40 or on the fringe of the red zone or into the red zone, and then you'd have a mistake. You'd have a sack. You'd have a drop snap. You'd have a tackle for loss. And those opportunistic plays allowed you to kill drives and do what so often other teams have done to you over the past couple of years when you've been explosive play reliant. Now, let's not say the offense didn't have a banner day against the Rams. We'll get into the offense in the second segment here, specifically Tua and his performance, but Chop Robinson gets a sack for the second consecutive game. Looked very disruptive, I thought, just off the TV copy. We'll see what the All-22 tape says. Looked like he played one of his best games as a pro after I thought he played the best game of his pro last week against Buffalo. That's a nice development for a guy who was working through a lot of ups and downs in the first half of the season. I thought Jordan Brooks, extremely active led the team in tackles, had a tackle for loss. The Dolphins had a bunch. They had 7 tackles for loss. For all the talk about the Rams had 10 and were very disruptive up front, all that's true. The Dolphins had a ton of guys making plays behind the line of scrimmage. They sacked Matthew Stafford 4 times. Sacks have not come in bunches for the Dolphins this season. They've been very pressure and disruption oriented and reliant with pressure packages and simulated pressures, but not actively getting home. And so you have Chop Robinson who finishes a play. You have Chop with a 3-man twist game where they bring Javon Holland as an extra rusher and drop somebody off on the other side, and Javon Holland gets home and has a sack. You have Calais Campbell getting a sack where Stafford is forced off his spot. And then you have the Rams kind of teetering on the brink of field goal territory. And Quentin Bell, of all guys, gets a free run off the left side against Alaric Jackson and has a strip sack of Matthew Stafford near the end of the first half. So impressive stuff from the Dolphins defense after, we just finished and watched the game last week, and you came out of it and you said they didn't have the horses. They just didn't have the manpower. They didn't have the guns that they needed to in this game to hang with a high-level quarterback with an offensive line that had some balance offensively. I think you did a better job of winning early downs and putting the Rams in obvious passing situations. Sure enough, Kyron Williams, the Rams didn't have a run on the day longer than 9 yards. Kyron Williams goes 15 for 62 with a long rush of 9. Blake Corum goes 2 for 8. Matthew Stafford is 1 for 0. That's your 18 for 70. And that was one of the bold predictions that we had, was with Sieler back up front. They were going to be significantly tighter again in the run game than what their season average was of 4.5 yards per carry. They put that on tape. Big time respect for the Dolphins defense at Calais Campbell and Zach Sieler and getting hands on footballs at the line of scrimmage. And they get a tip. And it was kind of it's not necessarily controversial, but I think some people were surprised that Anthony Walker got a second game after David Long was benched last week. Walker comes up with a pick and finished second in the team in tackles. He's not as dynamic athletically. He's a little bit more limited in the range and what you can do with him. But the reliability of what he's giving you in the box versus what David Long was doing, trying to undercut blocks and run into the backfield and make splash plays. You got some young guys that got some run, like Cam Smith, got a lot of action, got a lot of targets, understandably so. But had a couple of nice plays. They ran a quick perimeter screen to Puka Nacua, and Cam Smith saw it quick and got upfield and helped make a tackle on one of those key second half possessions in which the Rams were trying to cut in the Dolphins' lead. So I think there's a lot of good with this Dolphins defensive performance after 2 straight weeks where they really let you down in the second half. One name you don't like seeing on the defensive stat sheet is Tua Tagovailoa. Finished this game with 1 tackle, in addition to all of his contributions on offense. We're going to get into his performance next year on this episode of Locked On Dolphins, so make sure that you stick with us. Dolphins fans, if you remember our great partner, Ultimate Pro Football GM, they are back, and they've added an amazing new game mode that I want to tell you about. The game that's had you step into the shoes of football franchise GM and lead it to glory now has a head coaching career mode as well. On top of getting to build your dynasty by drafting players, signing free agents, and hiring a coaching staff, now you get to call offensive plays during games as well. I don't know about you, but if you're frustrated watching Mike McDaniel run outside and not take opportunities to try and run downhill and get some creases in between the tackles, you can do it for yourself, calling plays. Additionally, you can dig the new tools you can work as, such as individual training camps and an upgraded negotiation system for contracts. So this fun, realistic game just got a whole lot better. If you already have it installed, make sure to do an update so you can try out the new game mode. If you don't have it yet, download it right now. It's a must-have for all football fans. I love it, and I know you will too. Ultimate Pro Football Jam is completely free. There's no ads, and it is 100% playable offline, so you play on the go as you want and when you want. There's a special offer for Locked On listeners. Use promo code Locked On NFL in all caps inside the game store. Receive a free bonus to your franchise. Make sure to get it, as this perk will jumpstart your play and give you the advantage you want in creating your dynasty. Download the game. Visit ultimate-gm.com, ultimate-gm.com, or look for it in the app stores. Ultimate Pro Football GM. Start your dynasty today. Football fans can get all of the action over on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now is a great time for you to get some play because you can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets when you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need in the same place where you place your live bets. You can check the stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. Right now, the Dolphins for Week 11 listed as about a touchdown favorite against the Raiders, who the Dolphins now get a chance to play the Raiders and the Patriots in back-to-back weeks. And this Raiders football team, as of right now, they're 2-7. I would probably take the Dolphins to cover a touchdown spread in this game. And the reason why is it's in Miami. The Raiders are coming off a bye, but like they fired the quarterback's coach, the offensive coordinator. They promoted Scott Turner. They called Norv Turner out of retirement to come be a consultant on the offensive staff. Offensively, they're a mess. They're turning the ball over a ton. The Raiders are. They've got 13 turnovers in the last 5 games combined. I would bet on the Dolphins to cover a touchdown spread at home. You can do so over at FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. Take the opportunity to make every moment more with an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, FanDuel. Tua Tagovailoa. This was the heart attack game for Tua. I would say this. I thought this game was a showcase for Tua Tagovailoa of a few things. And they're things that are inherent limitations in what he has at his disposal as a passer. I think there's frustrating tendencies that you saw rear their head, no pun intended, in this game. So let's start with the interception, right? Tua throws an interception over the middle, kind of rears up off his back foot, tries to squeeze a seam pass quick, and it's picked off by Christian Roseboom, who was questionable in this game with a neck injury, ends up getting the interception, had 2 more passes defensed in this game as well. He gets along the right sideline, and Teron Armstead's in position to make the tackle, and Tua did the thing. He's on the sideline, and he tries to cut him down by going down at his feet, and sure enough, he sticks his head out there, and the shin of the Rams player conks him in the side of the head. And it got replayed about 15 times, and then people start speculating about, well, he stopped playing well after he threw the interception, as if he didn't throw the interception, which was a boneheaded play in its own right, before he got bumped in the head. Like, we don't have to sit here and speculate and presume that he's concussed every time he has a downturn in play or every time he's breathed on, right? That's the exhausting part about the narratives with Tua Tagovailoa. That said, as a quarterback, run your rear end out of bounds. And that's as nicely as I could say. This is a family program, so I'm not going to say what I want to say. You throw a pick, go to the sideline. Period. Go to the sideline. It's the same. It's like with everything with Tua, he's got to do it and then be like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. I'll do it differently next time. Like the scramble against Buffalo and the 4th down versus the last time he scrambled on 4th down against Buffalo. And I was like, oh yeah, I got hurt. I shouldn't do that. Let me do something else. And like, please let this be the learning lesson for Tua. If you throw a pick and it's along the sideline and like your last line of defense, but like somebody else might get there, or even if somebody else is not going to get there, please. And I know for people that are never Tua people, that's going to be the first time that happens. People are going to lose their mind and be like, it's the only quarterback in the league. And it's not true. Like, I've seen other quarterbacks do this. You have to live to fight another down, right? And cutting a guy low and putting your head down and getting a shin in the side/back of the head to make a tackle along the sideline could go without it. I'll be completely honest. I could go without it. Because sure enough, until Tua went to halftime and got his gig line straight and realized, oh, I can take completions underneath, he played poorly for the rest of that half. And everybody in the world started speculating on the timeline about what Tua playing bad meant and going back to the Packers game in 2020. It's like, is he just not allowed to play poorly and just be like, hey, you're playing bad. Can you please play better? It's exhausting. It's the most exhausting part of the whole thing, and I never thought that would be the case, given how exhausting some of the conversation is with Tua for like the pros and cons of weighing out the diehard fans of Tua versus the diehard never Tua people. But I thought this was the game. Was a game that kind of showed you. Want to think of the right way to put it, because he was able to get outside the pocket and he was able to make some things happen. But second reaction, tight window throws, I think it's never going to be a strength. And that was a number of the throws that you saw Tua have to try to make was like late second reaction, tight window throws, not scramble or get outside the pocket or do what he did on the first third down of the game, which was to hit Jalen Waddle on the big explosive play where he scrambles and gets outside the B gap and stays behind the line of scrimmage and throws it to Waddle, who's wide open because the coverage dropped him. Outstanding play. The play to Raheem Mostert where he takes the sack and then pirouettes away from pressure coming from his backside and extends the play and drops the ball up over the top to Raheem Mostert for a big third down conversion. As Miami in the late in the fourth quarter of this game is trying to put this game away. Like those plays are outstanding plays, and there's enough mobility to get it done. Right? There's enough short area quick twitch, and there's enough mobility for him to make those plays happen. But if we're trying to run slant wheel and I see the wheel late and I want to try to flash and react to it, but it's late and the hook curl defender is buzzing and widening with it, and I don't take it right away and then I try and take it late. It's like the interception threw against the Jets on Black Friday, right? The first one, not the second weirdo one before the pick six touchdown by Holland on the Hail Mary, the Fail Mary. It was just like a basic out route, and it was just like, oh, it's a little late. And the ball doesn't get there. And like I thought the Rams did a really nice job of giving some of those windows, but giving them to the Dolphins late and forcing Tua to process, affirm, and then try to take a quick flash window throw. And I think that's why they were able to get their hands on a couple of footballs that were close calls besides the interception that they did have, which was the same kind of play. But like Tua tried to take it, but his feet weren't set and his feet aren't in the ground. And like those throws never really go well for Tua. And I don't want to turn this into a dump session on Tua because he did some things, again, really nice in this game. I thought he did a nice job settling in the second half. And a couple of the sacks that he did take, of the 3 sacks, I think my biggest criticism would be that the ball security wasn't good and the amount of yards that you lost. Like you could have just thrown the ball away and kind of played some field position type stuff. But this was a kind of game where the way the Rams played you, they did dare you to make some outside of structure stuff happen at quarterback. And I thought he did enough. The Dolphins in the second half, the Rams missed the field goal. The Dolphins go 6 plays, 53 yards for a touchdown. They have the big completion on that drive to Jonnu Smith, and Jonnu obviously does a big portion of it, but there's a third down conversion on 3rd and 3. And you're on the 40-yard line or on the 34-yard line. So it's not like you were guaranteed with a kick. Sanders kicked the ball well. We'll get to him in a minute. And then you obviously have the touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill on the very next play from the 1-yard line on 1st and goal. Like that's a critical drive. That was the first drive of the second half. Second drive of the second half, you go 11 plays, 51 yards, possessed the ball for almost 6 minutes. And on that play, you had the motion out of the backfield choice route by Devon Achane for a big third down conversion near midfield that puts you in scoring territory. And then you have the Tua sack for -9 yards to push you back to almost the 50-yard line on 2nd and 10. And then the 3rd and 19 where you have that pressure off your backside and you spin out of it to your right and you flatten out along the line of scrimmage and you put it to Raheem Mostert and he gets 25 yards. And you kick a field goal. And then your third possession of the second half, and you only got 4 of them, and one of them was a kneel down after you recovered the onside kick. Your only other possession of the second half, you went 8 plays, 39 yards, and kicked another field goal. And, you had a 3rd and 6 conversion where you flashed and got outside the pocket and hit Odell Beckham for 11 yards and a first down. And, all of those things down the stretch in this game will probably get lost in incident along the sideline, and they will get lost in the sacks. And there were poor decisions with the ball in your hand. But I look at some of the second half stuff and the way that he settled in after the way the second quarter went, where I think you had, was it 8 yards of offense? Like nothing really going for you in the second quarter. I thought that was a really nice job by the Miami Dolphins. And that was a nice job by Tua, and it was a nice job by the ancillary players, right? Because that was Odell, that was Devon Achane. He's a little bit more of a big piece thing, but like Jalen Waddle had 2 big receptions on the first drive, and that was it. And Tyreek Hill had the touchdown from the 1-yard line and a couple of opportunities with getting the ball in his hands on some scheme touches, like a perimeter screen, and they ran 2 carries with him for 11 yards, but that was it. It was the other guys had to solve the riddle. And the more that those guys can do that, Malik Washington, and we didn't even mention the Malik Washington play on that field goal drive where they come out and they come firing. They get the Odell conversion for 11 yards, and then they come out on 1st and 10 for the 45, and they hit you for 17 on a absolute dime in tight coverage to Malik Washington, of all people. Like, really encouraged by those ancillary pieces and how Tua settled in on a lot of big moments with like, hey, it's tough sledding for us today. Where do we go from here? Want to give out some game balls. That's next, coming your way next year on this episode of Locked On Dolphins. So make sure that you stick with us. If you want to get down to the Rock on Sunday, Dolphins' next home game is going to be against the Raiders on Sunday. As we already mentioned, you can get your tickets through Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Things I love about Game Time, you can get tickets delivered directly to your phone with just a few taps on your phone. They take the guesswork out. They give you panoramic sight lines so you could see exactly what kind of sight lines are in your seats before you commit to buying your tickets, and you can toggle in all-in pricing, so there's no surprise fees when you put the tickets into your cart and go to check out. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Now's the most challenging portion of the day. Game balls. Now, Dolphins finished this game, just a quick statistical rundown. 238 yards of offense. That number was closer to 300, if not for 36 yards lost on 3 sacks taken by Tua Tagovailoa in this contest. Dolphins 15 first downs in this game, but 6 of 13 on 3rd down. They had twice as many 3rd down conversions as the Rams did. They ran just 53 plays on offense, averaged 4.5 yards per play. Tua Tagovailoa finishes 20 of 28 for 207 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, the 3 sacks that was taken. Miami goes 2 of 3 in the red zone for touchdowns. It's the difference in this football game. Obviously, they kick field goals in both of those situations versus touchdowns. Both teams have 5 field goals, and it's 15-15, right? So job well done by Miami in that regard. They finished the game with 22 rushing attempts for 22 rushing attempts for 67 yards, 3 yards per carry. Tough sledding. Running the football in this game, and some of that was the absence of Austin Jackson. Some of that was the absence of Alec Ingold. Some of that was the Rams in their front. You don't want to take away from what they have up front. This is just a really bad mix for the Dolphins to catch, not having Alec Ingold on top of and compounding not having Austin Jackson. That is a riddle that this team is going to have to figure out. But you do feel better about the team. 1 penalty for 15 yards. It was a bozo penalty. It was on a punt. Special teams, I have to give it to Jason Sanders. He hit 3 clutch kicks for you in this contest, 2 of which were from 50 yards. So Jason Sanders gets my special teams game ball for the Dolphins, I would go with probably Zach Sieler on defense. Just he finishes with 5 tackles in this game, tackle for loss, gets his hand on multiple footballs at the line of scrimmage. His return was monumental for what it meant for the defensive line rotation and getting capable players on the field and keeping your non-capable players off the field. So I would give Zach Sieler my game ball for the Dolphins defensively in this game. And then offensively, I might give it to Malik Washington. Malik had the clutch reception for 17 yards. He had the rushing touchdown on the first end around. All the talk about River Craycraft being back, this, that, the other thing. Lo and behold, it's Malik Washington, 6th round rookie midway through his rookie season. And I said something on social media after the Bills game. He's carving out a nice little role for himself in this offense. And I know a lot of people were excited about the addition there. And the worry was, how quickly can you get acclimated to a complex offense? And we're seeing from Malik Washington, the end around 18-yard touchdown run, the big reception that he had, knowing full well that he's not really playing a sexy role within the team. I'd probably give an honorable mention to Jonnu Smith for the 3 catches for 45 yards and the 33-yard catch and run he had on 3rd down to set up the Dolphins' second touchdown in this game. That's where my mind is at as far as game balls for the Dolphins offensively with his performance as they move to 3-6 on the season, a chance to get to 4-6 next Sunday against the Raiders at home. It's a big opportunity for the Dolphins, but this is, make no mistake, this is a quality win in a lot of ways. And it wasn't the sexiest win. It wasn't the cleanest win. There's a lot of things that you're going to want to clean up, but those things always feel better when you win a football game. I would take it over the last 3 weeks. I would take this feeling coming out of this game over the feeling of last week against Buffalo any day of the week. And I think they probably, definitely on offense, played better last week against Buffalo. I'll take this. It's fine with me. And hopefully everybody can feel plenty comfortable that the Dolphins offense scored enough points and there's no excuses. They just outscored their opponent in this game. Although I'm sure the same people that said that are going to give the defense all the credit for 5 field goals in this game, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'm going to dig into the tape over the next couple of days, let you guys know what I find. I'm looking forward to giving you all of that here on Locked on Dolphins. It is your team every day. I appreciate you guys for checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your night or great rest of your Tuesday. If you're catching the show on Tuesday, I'm Kyle Krabs. Keep it locked in right here on Locked on Dolphins.